The biggest lie in paragliding is that it's just a sport. That might sound crazy. We have competitions, rankings, cross-country leagues. It's almost all we see. And for years, I chased that version of paragliding hard. I achieved comp podiums, set local records, won XE leagues, and received a ton of validation initially. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. But chasing the sport and the validation that comes from winning almost cost me everything. It led me down a path of comparison, rivalry, and ego, and eventually dangling under my reserve from a mistake born out of overconfidence. Worse than that, it stripped me what drew me to flying in the first place. The magic, the joy, that pure feeling of connection, flying. Paragliding became about how far, and it ignored all those magical moments, those personal moments in between. It was like dancing to see who could get to the final move first, instead of just enjoying the dance itself. And it wasn't just me. In my work as an instructor and as a guide, I've seen it countless times. The frustration, the pushing, the ignorance of safety margins just to get those extra few kilometers for a cross-country league. The why of paragliding becomes the winning. We choose short-term glory over long-term fulfillment. This deep realization only really dawned on me years later on a chilly autumn day in Sweden after being grounded for 2 years, working in a warehouse as an immigrant, struggling to find my place. Getting back in the air felt like a miracle again. And as I squeezed out the lift in the weak air, my only goal that day was just to fly, and I realized that hollow chasing back home versus this simple present joy. Touching clouds, flying with eagles, those personal moments had nothing to do with winning or being better or being the best. They were just about being there, about flying. Then I also realized that my personal best flights, the most challenging flights, the ones where I had pushed myself further, none of those actually happened in competition or when I was in competition with someone else. They all happened on days when I was flying purely for myself. They came from my own intrinsic motivation, the love of the craft, and the desire for me to push myself to my own limits. Every time I flew with competition in mind, flying for status, flying for validation, those were the flights that led to anxiety, reduced my performance, and ultimately to the reserve ride. In the warehouse, reading became my lifeline. Mindset showed me the myth of and the needing to prove talent. Flow explained that state of effortless action at the heart of human joy and performance. And James Cars's finite and infinite games hit me hard. Competitions, rankings, those are finite games. Those are played to get to the end, for the game to stop. But mastery, learning, life itself, paragliding, those are infinite games, played to continue to play, to grow, to become our best selves so that we can contribute to others. I thought of the team of Brazilian pilots who I admire so much, who set world records together as a group. That was about collective excellence, pushing their limits, but doing it together. And that resonated with me so much and reminded me of those flights that I did with my own flying crew and mentors. Those shared stories added so much richness to the flying experience. And then I remembered the immense personal growth that I've gone through in my own paragliding journey. I realized that my path was not about winning or climbing ranks, but about deepening my own practice, stretching my own limits, improving my relationship with myself and with paragliding, and finding a way to give back, to return the gift that flying had given me. Philosophers and psychologists have been exploring this for centuries. Adler talked about the desire to win as a quest for superiority, and that's unhealthy striving, versus healthy striving, which is the goal to be better, but with community and contribution in mind. Timothy Galway's The Inner Game of Tennis teaches us that the real opponent isn't the other side of the net, but inside our own heads, the ego, the fear, the self-doubt. Of course, competition can absolutely be a tool to sharpen our skills. The great samurai swordsman Musashi didn't compete in organized events for glory, but used duels to hone his craft and to master himself. Challenge provides us intense feedback, forces us to elevate our game, and slots us directly into flow. I experienced this myself on one of my record flights. I was flying on my sea glider against a rival on his Foster D glider, but I wasn't focused on beating him. I was completely absorbed in flying my absolute best flight, tapped into flow, and I executed based on my own experience and feeling. The challenge that his presence created definitely pushed me to perform at my peak, and I ended up flying faster, catching him, passing him, and then ultimately flying further that day. The satisfaction came from the peak execution, the opportunity to use my skills to push my own limits to their edge, not from beating the opponent themselves, not from the actual thing of winning. It's to have that benchmark so you can raise your game and then perform at your absolute best. But that only works when your focus stays internal, on the process, on your performance against your own potential. The moment that the primary focus shifts purely to the external, to beating someone else, to the ranking, to the proving something, to winning at all costs, that's where the real danger lies. That's when ego takes control. The X-Alps, arguably the world's toughest race, is repeatedly won by one man, Kriegel Maurer. The difference appears to be his cool-headedness, his intuitive mastery and feeling, and his relentless pursuit at marginal gains in every aspect of the race, from packing his glider the fastest, to ground handling under extreme conditions, to choosing the best lines. He says that in competition, people can use a lot of brain power comparing themselves and focusing on the consequences and the outcomes instead of performing and focusing on what's happening right here, right now.
So I had to switch away from the view of winning, and then it was okay.
Focusing on what he calls his circle of control is what he does to counter that. All of which comes from years of practice, focusing on the fundamentals, and importantly, a solid inner core. So, am I saying that competition is bad? No, absolutely not. The structure of competitions isn't the enemy. The mindset we bring to it is what matters. If the ranking, the win, the external validation, if that becomes the goal, we risk losing the joy, the journey, the connection, and sometimes we risk much more than that. We end up playing a finite game and we forget the infinite one. We focus on that end result and not the long-term play. We kick our helmets after flying 99 kilometers and forget that we're flying. We push in dangerous conditions just to eke out those extra few little points. In that case, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not actually flying with ourselves. We are flying for what others are going to think about us. If we win that competition, if we win that XC League, if we fly a little bit further than this pilot, we don't want to be number 3 on the list, we want to be number 1 on the list. All of that ultimately is a presentation of what others are going to see and what others are going to think about us. And then, in many ways, we've lost the journey. The whole flight has become about the end point, not those amazing moments in between. After escaping chilly Sweden to resume my paragliding career in sunny South Africa, we had more tragedy that rocked our paragliding community, and I really questioned whether or not I should actually be teaching this thing. Like, I thought about quitting. It's like, how can I be teaching something that can potentially be dangerous for people, where people could hurt themselves? But then it dawned on me, people will fly regardless of me. And there are many people in this lifestyle that we have that have been flying for many years and been flying safely and doing incredible flights. And so I thought to myself, well, I can either run away or I can look to the masters in paragliding to guide me on my own journey so I can learn how I can try to be the most skillful pilot that I can be, but also the safest pilot that I can be, and then share my own journey so that I can help others do the same. Ultimately, in order to master the sky, we need to master our minds. By approaching paragliding not as a sport, but what I call an elemental art. Like the martial arts, but those that deal with the elements, surfing, climbing, base jumping, paragliding. At their core, it's not about winning. They are practices, disciplines that demand awareness, humility, control, mastery. They teach us about ourselves, about nature, about resilience. They are paths to self-mastery and to flow. Paragliding is a profound teacher if we let it be. So the biggest lie isn't thinking that paragliding involves sport. It's thinking that that is all it is. It's believing and pursuing numbers and rankings as the ultimate measure and goal. I want you to go away after this video and ask yourself, why do you fly? Are you chasing a finite win and worried about what others are going to think of you or how they perceive you as a good pilot? Or are you playing the infinite personal game of growth and joy, where it doesn't matter how somebody else flies compared to how you fly? What matters is that you are growing and having the ultimate experience and realizing your own personal potential. Are you dabbling in it as just a sport, or are you fully committed to paragliding as an art, a practice? If you're curious about exploring this deeper side of paragliding, building mental strength, finding flow, overcoming fear, I share insights in my monthly newsletter, The Way of Flow, and the link is in the description. And if you want to change your flying and level up your thermaling, watch this video next.